Let's take a quick overview at all the diversity of animal groups. We're going to start by the most basal animals, first ones to diverge from all animal groups, which are the sponges. They belong to the phylum Porifera, and they're a different group that is called Parazoa, while the rest of the animals are in this group that is Metazoa. Sponges are some of the most simple animals. They don't have tissues. They have different cell types, but the cells are loosely arranged. They are mostly filter feeders. They do not have a centralized digestive system. All their digestion actually happens intracellular, which means inside of their cells. So they can only eat particles that are small enough that can be filtered into a single cell, and that single cell will digest them. They don't have embryonic development and they don't have tissue organization. But they're very important ecologically, they're very diverse. They provide shelter for other animals, and they also, since they're filter feeders, they improve the water quality of the places where they inhabit. They are non moving, although their larvae can swim and colonize new habitats. They also have no symmetry, and they can reproduce both by sexual and asexual reproduction. The cells that form sponges give us a clue of what the common ancestor of all animals might have been. So sponges have these cells that are called choanocytes that have this color of cilia and a flagellum. They use that color to create a current of water so that they can filter that water. And these cells look very similar to a group of protists that are called choanoflagellates. So it's likely that the common ancestor of sponges was related to the protist group of choanoflagellates. The next animal group are Cnidarians. This group belongs to metazoans. Cnidarians include things like jellyfishes, anemones, corals. These organisms are carnivores. They can eat other animals, and the reason why they can eat other animals is because they have a gastrovascular cavity. So they have a space inside of their bodies where they can capture prey and release digestive enzymes to digest that prey extracellularly. So this is a difference from sponges that could only do intracellular digestion. Cnidarians can do extracellular digestion, and they have a cavity where they can do that. They're also diploblastic. They have an ectoderm and an endoderm layer. And that endoderm layer is the one that surrounds the gastrovascular cavity, while the ectoderm layer is the outer layer of the organisms. They're also the first ones to have tissues, organized cells performing a function. They have a simple nervous system and a hydrostatic skeleton. Here we see the two classic examples of a polyp form and a medusa form. The ability to digest food extracellular was a key step in the evolution of animal diversity, because being able to digest food extracellularly means you can eat larger things, which means you can now eat prey, or you can eat other animals, not just small cells or dissolved organic molecules. Here we can see the structure of a typical anemone with the tentacles and the two layers of tissues. We have the gastrodermis, that is the innermost, that comes from the endoderm, and the epidermis, that is the surface tissue that comes from the ectoderm. Inside the gastrovascular cavity, which is where digestion will take place. So examples of Cnidarians includes things like corals. Corals are very important ecologically because they build coral reefs, and the structures that they build provide shelter for lots of other species. Corals also have a symbiosis with a protist that allows them to do photosynthesis using sunlight to produce sugars. Cnidarians are some of the most venomous organisms. They produce this venom as a way to capture prey and as a defense. Most Cnidarians live in colonies of multiple polyps, such as the Portuguese monowar, and jellyfish. So these are beautiful, very diverse animals. For a long time, the diversity of animals looked very similar to sponges and jellyfishes that we know today. They were mostly soft-bodied organisms that didn't move and were probably mostly filter feeders. And then all of a sudden, around 543 and 525 million years ago, the diversity of animals exploded. Although still up for debate what caused that explosion in animal diversity, there were many things that had to be in place for that to happen. One of them was enough oxygen accumulated in the atmosphere that could support larger organisms that will have higher energetic demands. Another thing that was necessary for this increase in diversity was the ability to control development so that you could produce a variety of body plans. This needed the evolution of developmental genes that could control animal development, and a small change in those developmental genes could result in a large change in the body plan of organisms. So those things had to be in place in order for this increase in diversity to happen. And the final thing that was probably the trigger for this explosion in diversity was the appearance of predation. So these animals that couldn't move, they weren't out hunting other animals. But once bilateral symmetry appeared in animal groups, and animals now had a direction for movement, and they started developing sensory organs in the front. Those sensory organs promoted the development of a brain to be able to process the input that the senses were getting. Animals were able to move and were able to hunt others, which means that now animals either became predators or became prey. And we start seeing in these Cambrian explosions, animals started to develop defenses, such as shells, to protect themselves from predators. And we also see predators starting to evolve ways to overcome those defenses. Animals started to get into this evolutionary arms race where prey was trying to protect themselves and run faster than swim faster than predators, or create defenses against predators, and predators had to overcome those defenses to be able to feed on that prey. So this evolutionary arms race led to an increase in diversity of animal forms. The combination of all these factors led to the explosion in diversity of animals in that point.